Richard, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yes. Starting my camera. Hi, that's better. Sorry about that. You would think I would know how to use Zoom properly by now. So welcome everyone, and thanks for coming along. So I'm here to talk a bit about Get a Drip, which is a company I founded. Sort of it's an interesting concept that's always had it's always on the fence a bit in terms of ideas. So I'm going to tell you a bit how I turned that idea into a business. And then open up to questions, so feel free to ask anything you want. I'm here to sort of help. I want to give as much help to people that are looking for guidance or looking to become entrepreneurs or start their own business. So I started Get a Drip back in 2017. Get a Drip does what it says on the tin. So we provide IV vitamin drips and nutrients via injections and into the vein. We started with a mobile van back in 2017. Soon after that, 6 months after that, we then moved into Shoreditch, took up a unit, and we then moved on to other units and franchised. I guess I'll start before I tell you more about Get a Drip in terms of how I turned the idea into business. So Get a Drip is based around my own needs. So I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic when I was 18 years old. Alongside having diabetes, it comes with sort of an impaired immune system. Every bug going I get every year, I'd always end up being in and out of hospital. And I started to notice I'd always be hooked up to an IV drip in there for 1 or 2 days, and then I'd come out again the next day. So it really took me to look into this and see if I could do this privately, just because it's more convenient. And that's sort of where the idea for Get a Drip came from. I looked around, and there's a lot. I mean, I did a lot of research. Every sort of entrepreneur has different ways of doing it and sort of starting their business, depending on what their idea is. Because of what we do, and it's a medical nature, is a bit more difficult. So my advice, or what you really want to do, is you want to get to a minimum viable product. So you want to get something to market to, or in some sort of form to test it out on your market. And so for Get a Drip, this is quite complicated because the medical element. So I had to find a doctor first. Doctors are expensive. Had to find out what my formulas would be. No one would give me the formulas or prices because I needed a pharmacy and a doctor. I had to see if I could rent this. I couldn't just do this. I couldn't just pull up outside a train station, open up a curtain and say, right, everyone come in for your IV drips. So you had to look at secure places to do it, have landlords that would let you do it. And I had to do all of these elements before I could find out if it was a viable model. So for me, I previously, before I sort of started Get a Drip, I was a civil and structural engineer. And then I worked at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers for 5 years, and I was a chartered accountant. So whilst I was employed at PwC, that's sort of when I started using my spare time to do as much work as possible before I then gave up that income, took the leap of faith and started the business. Depending on what your business is, you can do this in different ways. So for me, I'd do the business plan. I looked at funding. I did as much questionnaires and like asking qualitative questions, like as much research as I could do without having a physical product or somewhere to come and try the product out. And then when we launched, it was a full clinic, so it required me in the shop all the time. If you were launching a different sort of company, take a tech company, there's no reason why you can't still be in full-time or at least part-time work whilst you're running that company. The technology that we have, and especially since coming out of COVID, there is the ability to be able to actually start sort of side hustles and companies without having to take this massive, like to give it all your work up, all your income. So that's sort of different for everyone. But for me, I did my business plan. I looked for funding. I looked for investment. In terms of when I was starting to take advice, I guess I would have done it sooner. So you learn so much more as soon as you start your own business or side hustle or whatever it is you're looking to start. So you learn so much more by actually starting it and just getting out there. I probably learned more in the first 2 or 3 weeks of my business than I did in the previous 5 to 10 years of employment at PwC. And a bit of advice is to sort of only take advice from people that have been where you want to get to. There's no point listening. You probably tell your friends and family, they sort of tell you what you want to hear. They might tell you not to do it. And sort of, so the biggest thing for me is take advice from people who have been where you want to be. It's not so useful having advice from people who haven't been there. Sort of everyone's got a suggestion to say, this is how you should do this, this is how you should do that. I think you should have done this. I wouldn't do that. It's not that useful. So sort of when you're taking advice, yes, it's good to get feedback on your product, but only specific feedback. So for me, I'd say only take advice from people that have been where you want to go to. Sort of find that mentor. I've got mentors. I've always had mentors sort of at that next stage, be it investors, be it being on an accelerator. The NatWest Accelerator in London is the one I did, and then sort of I've got a community off the back of that as well. I'd say as well, I probably spent. I did a business plan before we launched, and like really massive, being an accountant, a really nerdy, massive Excel sheet, sort of every possible outcome. And what you soon find that when you start your business, that business plan you've written goes in the bin straight away. It's completely irrelevant. It changes immediately. And so sort of like, as Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, and that definitely applies to a business plan. So don't figure that there's no this sort of set way of these ways you have to do it. You just want to get this minimal viable product and idea out to market to get feedback. So at that point, you want to get as much third-party feedback on that product to try and test it to see if your idea can be validated to then sort of take it to the next step. In terms of like, you've got all the physical things you can do, so business plans, etc. But then there's also mindset. So a lot of the accelerators will work on the mindset you need to run your own business. And this is sort of an open mindset. So every cloud has a silver lining. So you have to train yourself to be able to look at situations, or it might happen naturally if you're an optimist. So for me, I find this quite easy. For others, I know they don't, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. Just an optimist and open mindset, pure grit and determination. So every day, like you're going to get, it feels like you're getting punched in the face sometimes. There might be 20 things going wrong, 30 plates being spun, and you need to quickly figure out which plates are the most important to keep spinning and which not so much. And being able to deal with that, actually, it does become easier. So the longer you're going, the easier it becomes to process these sort of difficult situations that are going on. So that's sort of open mindset is really important. That you look into that, do some reading, accelerators. If you're naturally an optimist, you might find it much easier to sort of have that. And then the minimal viable product. In terms of, for us, shoulda, woulda, coulda all the time. So like we really struggled. The concept was completely crazy. Everyone thought I was mad. No one, so IV drips and injections, we wanted to put them on the high street. Absolutely every single landlord said no. So we had to then sort of pivot, change direction a bit and said, right, let's put it in a mobile van with a door. So we just could find space easier to rock up and start the business. So that's what we did. Within 6 months of doing that, Box Park, Shoreditch, a sort of retail company in the UK, approached us and said within 6 months, can you open at our site? Which we were like, of course. So we did. Once we opened there, another landlord, Westfield London, huge landlord, one of the biggest landlords in the world for shopping centres, then said, do you want to come and open a kiosk in the middle of one of our biggest malls in London? So I said yes. So we went and raised some more funding and we did that, and then sort of exploded. And now we have a landlord will email me once or twice a week, sort of begging us to open our next location near them. So I'd say, like, yeah, we got hit. We went from no one giving us a location to everyone begging us to open a location within their site. So you only just have to continue, and if you believe what you're doing is going to work, then you push with that. I mean, I was quite lucky that a lot of the time, 90% of the time, it's going to fail. So the business will fail. It doesn't mean, I mean, some people, like people that's famous entrepreneurs, they started their businesses when they were like 50, 55, even older. So it's never too late to start your own business, and a lot of people will go through 7, 8, 9, 10 different failures. So the Gymshark founder Ben failed with 6 or 7 businesses before he founded Gymshark, which is now a £1 billion business. So for me, that optimism and mindset is really important, and it's what gets you through those points. Yeah, so I think that's most of the parts from me. But I'm happy to take some questions on a bit. That's like, I could talk to you about Get a Drip for ages and how we've then gone on to other ideas. But I'd really like to sort of ask you guys, what do you want to ask me in terms of, because I imagine you've got a lot of these ideas and you want to make them into a business. So I want to sort of be able to see if I can do tailored responses.
Thanks, Richard. Someone's coming up to the stage to ask you a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Patricia, are you there?
I think it's on mute.
We can't hear you. Oh, we can't hear you, Patricia. Do you want to write it in the chat? Okay. That's fine. So we have from Chrissy. She says she's got chronic illnesses and T2. She launched her first business in 2015 after solving a sleeping problem for her autistic son. She's now starting again with a different business, and she needs to find funding. And she's not sure if she should be a CIC or find investors. Do you have any advice?
So it really depends. I know that for the Purposeful project, they really push not having debt funding and sort of to bootstrap it. So you have a few options. You can either bootstrap it, i.e. get your minimal viable product to market in the cheapest way possible. So really, how much will it take you to get the idea to market, just to get some feedback? It doesn't need to be this final vision of what you have in your head. It just needs to be some sort of percentage of it to be able to get feedback on it. So I'd say start with that, and most ideas you can get a basic operating model of that idea. If you can't, then you really then need to look at what funding's available. So grants in Hertfordshire, in London, not sure obviously if you're from the UK, but in Hertfordshire they have a place called Winter, and they do match funding. So put £3,000 in, you get £3,000. You can do UK government startup loans up to £25,000 unsecured as well. And then if it's beyond sort of that £25,000 mark, then you might want to look at, often if you're going to go out and get funding from an investor, they might want to see that you've got sort of skin in the game. So they want to maybe see what you've actually put in before you then go and they go put their own money in as well.
And is that, she said, was that match funder?
No, so the way we did it was Virgin Startup Loan, which is a government-backed loan. So that was 25k. You also get signed a mentor as well, which is really nice, and they're not relevant to your industry, and that's unsecured, so it's sort of got no security against yourself. So that's up to £25,000. It really depends on the amount you're looking for, and sort of the stage that your minimal viable, like probably whatever it is that you're going to make is at.
Yeah, and is it the same for a service-based business to do that?
Yeah, so if I could Get a Drip without all the regulations that surround the medical element to it, I would have pulled up to King's Cross Station with like literally a drawer curtain and a seat behind it, and I would have just offered drips to people for free. That is like a minimal viable product right, for me. Yeah. I'd need to pay the nurse for 4 hours. I'd need to go find the product and then just get feedback of people. That would be a minimal viable product. So really, even if you're a service-based business, it should be easier because if you're providing that service, you can do that and not pay yourself, for example, to try that out at first.
Okay, perfect. That's very helpful. Adam's come up to stage.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hello. So basically, I'm a writer and a poet. I've been writing for the past 13 years. I have over 200 self-published books, of poetry. And I'm not making much money of it, but I would like to turn it to be my main job, main profession, because I'm tired of working all kind of sales jobs, call center jobs. I'm tired of that. I want to write full time, and I want to earn from it. And basically, I have an idea of creating a newsletter for depressed people that I would send them a cheerful poem every day. And my question is, how do I gain subscribers to that newsletter, and how do I make them pay?
So that's quite a good question. I think if you look at the founder of Heights, so Heights, so he's building his supplement company sort of live on the internet for people to watch and follow. And he started off, so he sells brain supplements, but the way he started off was he started doing blogs. So you do blogs and you write interesting content. So you're not just going to suddenly snap your fingers and you're just going to make loads of money. It's like a slow and incremental gains. So he was doing blogs. He's doing really sort of, especially in the mental health area. So he's in the mental health area as well. So potentially like a crossover there. He started doing blogs. They had loads of really useful information. People found the blogs really useful. So for about a year, he just wrote blogs with really good information and people adding to it to slowly build up that network for free. If you're talking about selling stuff to subscribers, normally, I mean, I'm not in the tech space, but normally once you start charging people, then someone else is going to come in and do it for free. So I'd advise that you want to build up to that sort of critical factor. I think for Heights.
Actually, I was thinking more of having a very low subscription price, like, a monthly subscription, let's say of 5 to 10 pounds sterling per user, and allow them to have a poem a day, like a cheerful poem a day, like every time they feel depressed or something is not going well in their life, they can go to a newsletter and like cheer themselves up. Like that's the main idea.
Yeah. So you start for free. If it was me personally, I'd start for free, and I wouldn't start to charge until I hit that level of numbers that I'd want. Because sort of, there's a company called Subly. I know the founder really well. They sort of automatically add subtitles to videos that people then add. So they've got a free version, and then they get a premium version where you get other extras. So maybe you'd start with this free version just to make sure the contents are right and the people are enjoying what you're watching and what you're producing and reading. So then you'd then start tailoring it to then improve it incrementally. And then maybe you'd have actually, if you subscribe, you get these extra bits. You get extra stuff if you subscribe. So everyone gets the base level.
Yeah, I just don't know what to offer extra beside it,
But I was just thinking
the
about.
other question is that company you mentioned, Subly, do they work with TikTok?
Well, they work with LinkedIn. They work with. I don't know them too well, but it's more the model that you start with a free model, and then you build so like you can still you can start your business now while you're still in work, and you can write your blogs once a week and you can publish them. You can grow your network and continue to grow it while not having to sacrifice financial income and stress. So once a week, if you publish it too often, people aren't going to read it. So you need to keep them incentivized. And so once a week, publish these blogs, and you have these guest speakers coming on. And then you find that people coming on are like, they all might have a similar, if it's with mental health, then one might have a similar need where they might need something like a supplement or something else. And then you might partner with someone to sell that supplement, and you might then take a percentage of that revenue. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm not planning to write any blogs. I had several blogs. It didn't work out very well. This time I was willing to create a newsletter, something I could write once a day or once a week, automated, and people would receive it automatically. But my struggle is to gain subscribers and to make them pay. But from what I understood from you, to make them pay is a secondary question. First of all, I need to gain subscribers at all. So
yeah, exactly
that's
that.
the main struggle.
Yeah, exactly that. You need to gain subscribers, and you maybe partner with people with big followings, because then you'll get more subscribers. So like on Instagram, for example, if I'm doing an Instagram promotion and Get a Drip's got 14,000 followers, and we partner with a gym, say Barry's Bootcamp, and they've got 100,000 followers, we then do a joint post where Barry's gym gives away a free gym ticket and we give away a free product, and you have to tag us both and follow us. So you want to use other people in the space, like Heights is a really good one for what you're doing, to do some sort of joint exercise, which doesn't cost money, where you can give something back. In terms of utilities that you can charge for, you just need to think, what will your end user find useful? What would you find useful if you were reading the newsletters?
Well, I can't think of anything else but pills.
yeah. Start writing it, and your users will start telling you what they find useful, I imagine.
Okay, thank you for your answer,
Thanks,
Richard.
Adam. I hope that helped. So we've got Patricia. She started building a brand focusing on supporting single parents, mostly single mums. They struggle with a lot of stereotypes that she would like to work on changing for a more positive outlook on what a single mum parent actually is and how hard they work. What's your advice on building interesting content surrounding single parents?
So it's a community straight away. So my gut feel would be to make a community of like-minded people, and then start to brainstorm and discuss. So you could have like a Google meetup once a week with like 10, 15, 20 different people in the same situation. And you can start discussing what similar pain points you have. If you do this Google Meet and 20 people all have the same pain point, write about it, do a blog, do a newsletter, and everyone's going to relate to it. So I'd use that to find what everyone's got sort of in common. So the common struggles that everyone's having, and then often you can keep writing about it, and you just need that one opportunity where someone reads it that's maybe a journalist or famous or really relates to it, and then they share it, and then it sort of explodes from there usually.
Perfect, thank you. Next question from Gary. He goes, "Hi Alex, I love your company, Get a Drip. It's actually the inspiration for what I have started. You can find me on Instagram, Beta Shots. I'm currently a student nurse and I've just finished first year. Currently I only do vitamin B12 and vitamin D injections, but I want to eventually administer IV drips, but I can only do this once a qualified nurse. I work mobile and drive to client houses to administer B12 and vitamin D. I'm fully insured, but I was wondering if you have any advice on growing this for the future."
Well, if you're based in the UK, just apply to a franchise with us. It's my quick answer to that. So for us, I guess like entrepreneur, if you look at franchising as well, sort of what we do, some of the most wealthiest people in the world are just franchise owners. So often, if you look at Domino's, Marriott's hotel, Hilton hotels, most stuff you see out the car dealerships, retail shops, they're all franchising, and sort of franchising is good for certain things, especially for like what we do, because you get the benefit of all the branding, all the awareness, all the marketing, and sort of your own boss as well. You can grow your own network and community whilst getting the guaranteed sort of income and stuff like that. So our franchisees, we generally get 250 applications a month. 1% are successful when they get through it, and we were at 3 or 4 sites. We're now at 16. We're on to be 40 by the end of March, and over 100 the year after that. So for me, obviously, the answer to that question is join the franchise, and then essentially it's a bit like saying, if you want to start your own chicken shop somewhere, you could start your own. It might not be that successful, but then maybe you use it at KFC or franchise KFC or one of the other brands, for example. You get the power of that. So that'd be my advice, I guess, in that situation.
Great advice. He said he meant to say Richard, not Alex, so yeah. He apologized.
I'll let him
off. SW, is there a replay? I missed most of the Sally. Yeah, this is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube, so I will send a recording to you tomorrow. Ricardo says, "How did you personally get your first customers? I can't imagine it was easy to just ask people to get IV drips from an unknown brand?
Yeah, so we actually, IV drips have been around since the 1980s. There's tons of places in the US, and there were already clinics in the UK where people like Simon Cowell, Rihanna, etc. Sort of, it wasn't like in your face on the main high street, but people were already having it. So I knew people weren't opposed to having it, and there was already a market there, except they were paying thousands of pounds and we were making it hundreds of pounds. So I already knew it was going to work. The way we did marketing was, so we launched back in 2017, and Instagram was sort of the new, sort of like, say TikTok's the new an upcoming thing. That's what Instagram was sort of in 2017. We did a big influencer party. We spent loads of money on it, and we had over 150 different wellness influencers come down and post about it. All the drinks were certain brands, all the this was certain brands, and we had loads of people having drips. The van was actually parked down the street in Shoreditch. It had footfall of about 10 people a day and probably about 10 drug deals a day. Sort of this like side little street in Shoreditch, London. So we definitely didn't have the footfall. So that's how we did the first activation, and people just came in their droves, and sort of like, I think that validated my idea. And then from there, we sort of didn't look back. 70%, we've got a 70% retention rate of customers. And in the first 2 years, it was all word of mouth. So people felt great. 70% of people come back, word of mouth. We didn't spend any money on marketing after that launch event for the first like 2 years.
Wow, that's incredible. I hope that answered your question, Ricardo. Alexandru, hope I pronounced your name right. How to reach high quality people for an adventurous project?
What does that mean?
I'm not 100% sure.
High quality investors or
yeah, I guess so. I don't know, Alexandra, if you want to expand on that question, but we could, yeah, maybe go with investors for now.
well, if you want to, well, it's just proving the market. And I mean, if you look at tech companies, they get, well, until recently they used to have massive valuations. Oh, not investors. What is it?
Oh, not investors.
Do you mean like? Oh, you mean like employees or staff?
Yeah, I think he means staff.
So I guess it's all about, well, how do we retain good staff? We've got a really high retention rate, and it's all about brand and ethos. So brand is what people, brand is what someone says behind your back when you're not listening. That is what your brand is. So with us, it's about building a good brand, and a brand isn't just a logo like we've got here. A brand is what you do and say every single day, and it has to come from what your beliefs are. So we have a load of loads of stuff, honesty being one. So we make sure if you do something bad and you're honest about it, you're never ever going to get really told off or get a drip. You're not going to, like, it's having these values and your core values then entrenched into the company. Once you've got your core values entrenched into it, and you sort of got that open mindset, and you like, yeah, it's really stressful, but you've got to chop people's heads off all the time. You've got to make people feel included, have this family, and then you've got to motivate them, and people have to believe in your idea. So you have to believe in your own idea, and if you believe in your own idea, other people will, just naturally flows. So all of that has then allowed us to have high quality people that then come to us. We're about 70 people now, including the franchise, and we just make sure we only bring sort of people that we're going to get on well with, because we can do all the HR and all the interviews and all the advertising you like, but until you actually really meet someone and they make sure they get on with the team. And that's all how we did that. In terms of partnerships with big companies that we've partnered with, it's mainly because we've been quite lucky that we've got this cool innovative idea. It's on the high street. The high street is declining, people aren't shopping as much, so people want these new services there that are going to really drag footfall there, and people love the idea, they love the concept, and it's sort of like, it's controversial, which can always be a good thing as well, because then you're getting the press, and all PR generally is good or bad. You're going to end up, if they're the bad press release about Get a Drip, yes, 20% of the people might shout badly about us, but the other 80% that are quiet come to see us anyway, so it works for us. That's sort of what I can say on that.
Amazing. And where do you get your motivation from? Pim said.
You have to just believe in the idea, and then I think surround yourself. So for me, I went on the NatWest Accelerator. There's a year and a half I was on there, and I've now got this community of 45 other entrepreneurs that I help look after on WhatsApp or manage a group with, or we're all involved. And then once you're in this community and you realize everyone's going through the same thing, no matter how big or small the company is, everyone's sort of semi-winging it. No matter, even these massive companies, everyone's winging it. Everyone's like, you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to pivot, you have to just take gut decisions. You can't wait for all this information to come in to then make decisions. So surrounding yourselves with those type of people, the right type of people, those are optimists, those are open mindsets, those that have been there and done it, having good mentors to chat to once a month, and that surround yourself with the right sort of people. And then once you get big enough, you have to get up every day. You've got people relying on it. We've got 75 people that rely, their salaries rely on us going to work. We've got hundreds of suppliers that rely on us buying from them, and we've got 50,000 clients on our database that we need to serve. So that keeps me going now as well, I guess.
Well, thanks so much, Richard, for your time. One more question, if that's okay, and then we will close the webinar. Gary said, was there any particular reason you started with a van for Get a Drip instead of renting a space? Was it because it was a low risk to test out your idea before renting? I would take you up on applying to Get a Drip, but I think Dublin is my closest store. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for us, actually, yeah, we wanted a store, but no one would give us a space. Everyone thought we were mad. Everyone's like, IV drips in my store? No, absolutely no. A lot of especially like the big landlords sort of were quite old school in their thinking back then, only 2017, right? But still, no one would give us a space, so we had to. I think at British Land, one of the commercial director there said, look, I love the idea. It's been voted no by the board. Why don't you put it on wheels, and then you can move it around and test it in different areas? And yeah, it's the cheapest way to get a minimal viable product without, say, £100,000 to kit out a shop. We used the Virgin loan. I think the van was about £20,000, so we ended up with this full clinic that we could use and move it to different places to test the idea. In reality, we never had to move it from our first site, luckily. So. Thanks so much, Richard. I hope that helped you, Gary. I think that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone who was listening and engaging with us tonight. This recording will be up on YouTube tomorrow, and we'll send the recording to everyone. And yeah, I hope everyone has a lovely evening, and we'll see you soon, Richard. Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming on. Thanks, Richard. Yes, see you soon. Bye.